Welcome to Business Innovators Radio, featuring industry influencers and trendsetters sharing proven strategies to help you build a better life right now.
Hello and welcome to the show. This is your host, Neil Howe, but today we have a very special guest host. Her name is Shireen Richter, all the way from South Africa. Shireen is a laughter professor in South Africa, and she is putting together a book called Expert Mavericks, and she's interviewing some high-profile people from South Africa who have a lot to share in regards to what it is to be successful and what you need to do to have success and happiness in your life. So really looking forward to hearing those South African accents and hearing from all these guest experts that she is going to interview. So take it away, Shireen.
Silva, CEO of Air Mauritius. Hi, Carla.
Hi, Shireen.
It is an honor and pleasure to be interviewing you today. Carla, the book is called Expert Mavericks. It has different meanings for different people, but essentially, what does the term expert maverick mean to you?
Well, I think it really relates to somebody that's really mastered their sphere of influence. So I think it's really all about somebody that has brought a different perspective, innovation, and really mastered their sphere of influence, whatever their world or their journey has been. I also think that a expert maverick is somebody that takes a helicopter view on business or whatever it may be, whatever sphere of influence you're in, and looks at it from that perspective. So has a visionary approach, a big picture approach, and is really, really passionate, and hence becomes an expert and a maverick, doing things differently.
I love the idea of a helicopter view. That is very maverick in thinking. And sitting across from you, a beautiful, ambitious, successful woman in an industry that is not dominated by women, certainly has singled you out as being a maverick. What can you tell us about what has molded you into this position? Because people look at others who are successful and think, wow, look at them. They've got it so easy. They look at you at the top and look at your day or look at what you do and think, gee, you just get to make decisions. You get to tell people what to do. And, you know, life is pretty simple for you. But the truth is that a real maverick journey takes a lot of sweat and tears, a lot of heart and soul. What has molded you into the maverick? When did you start your career? Did you always love the airline industry? Did you land up here by mistake? What was the driving force behind bringing you to the present moment?
Well, I really liked your point, heart and soul, because I think that really, really has molded me to where I'm at today. I think it's definitely got to do with the heart and the soul. So my passion for making a difference from a young age has definitely molded me to where I'm at today. And I will say that I've always had an absolute passion for aviation. So from a very young age, I used to say to my folks that one day I will be in that aeroplane in the air when it did come past the house.
Yes.
And that was, I think, the passion within me. I do come from an aviation family, so I think possibly
that had an influence.
Yes, and it triggered off that passion. I think also being able to positively influence and engage with people, and the interpersonal skills that I was, well, I suppose, molded into me from a young age, having taken on a lot of leadership roles at school, but I think within my family environment, because we were all very involved with community work and helping others. So I think from a young age it was instilled in me that one needs to make a difference, and that one needs to think a big picture, and one needs to do things differently.
And that's very powerful in the world today, because we're in a world that needs people so desperately to make a difference.
Absolutely.
And we are only able to make a difference when we are the best version of ourselves.
Absolutely.
And being a woman, I guess, is quite tough in this industry. And
very much so.
as in any business, it's not only about the business itself being aviation, but about the people, the lives you touch, the lives you change.
Absolutely.
How would you say this has impacted on you as a person? So in the journey of helping others along the way, how has that impacted you? Have you found that your journey has grown you to make a difference in others that surround you every day on a business level?
Yes, well, I think the struggles and the hardships and sometimes feeling really despondent in an industry that is very much male-dominated, I think what really triggered off that zest to achieve was the fact that I was told that a woman doesn't belong in a leadership role at a very young level within my career in the aviation sector. And I had an absolute passion and zest to show the person that said this to me, but the gentleman, that I could do it and that we can achieve. And of course, along the way, for me, what was very important is to instill that zest and passion in others that have been told you can't do it, or you won't achieve it, or you won't get there. So I think from my perspective, what I learned along the journey in terms of the struggle to achieve and do things differently, I think for me it was just about making a positive impact and leaving a legacy more than it was just about getting to the top. But I think also what I witnessed along the career, and I still see it today, is that the gentlemen somehow are promoted on potential, whereas women have to continuously prove their proven track record to be able to get to the top. So I noticed that along the way, my male colleagues, and I learned from them, they were promoted based on potential, and women, we've continuously had to say, but this is actually what I've done, this is what I'm capable of, specifically in a leadership and in a commercial arena. So I think that pertains to all industries, not just aviation.
And have you found more so, being an international company, have you found more so that this is the case in South Africa, or is this a trend all over the world and global in the aviation industry?
It's global, and I think in the aviation industry more so. If you look at aviation globally, there are very few women in senior roles. I think the numbers are a lot better, and I think women have realized and embraced the fact that the leadership roles can definitely be handled, as I always say, the captain's seat can be taken by a woman. On the technical side too, we've seen a huge rise in women cadet piloting. So that's also fantastic, so that all spheres of aviation can definitely be driven, as I always say, by the captain being a female. So for me, it was really about saying to others and to the teams, because I've managed over 3,000 people in organizations, to say to them, you can achieve it irrespective of what you're being told, because I think that's the biggest issue, is we're often told you're not worthy, you can't get there. And more important,
to ask you a question based on that point, so many people are told you can't, you won't, you don't have the ability.
Absolutely.
And that subconscious conditioning can often stay with us. So specifically in your role here, where you were told you can't and you did,
correct,
what would you say to others in that position, kids who are going through school, people who are in careers, who are being told you can't?
Absolutely.
What do they need to believe within themselves or take with them from your journey that made you believe, I can, I'm not going to listen to this?
Well, I think it's perseverance and being persistent, and also doing things in a consistent manner. I think leadership is very much about consistency, perseverance, and staying true to the cause. That comes with honesty and integrity. So staying true to what it is that you need to do. But you need to remain focused, and at the same time, you need to establish and put a plan together in terms of, this is where I'm going, this is who's going to help me, because none of us can do any of this on our own. We need mentors, we need support structures, we need gentlemen that are sponsors as much as we need women that are sponsors. So it's about holding hands with others, and it's about, in a positive manner, pursuing that dream, staying on course, and realizing what is realistically can be done, what can't be done, what do I need to be able to get there. We don't know everything. We're not experts in absolutely everything. But if you've got a maverick spirit and you want to become an expert, and that was my passion. My passion was I want to be the best aviator. I want to be a leader that becomes a global leader, renowned for my leadership skills.
And as a woman, that's a very powerful message to leave people or instill in others, be the best you.
Absolutely.
In whatever it is that they choose. And there are many fields, but look at what you've done. So it is possible. You are the emblem of possibility.
Absolutely. And I think what's also important, and a lot of young people that I mentor in the aviation and even in the commercial sectors, I always say that age is not the issue. I'm often told, how is it that you've managed to achieve your tertiary education and your leadership role at a director level at such a young age? I've just turned 40, and I always say, age has got nothing to do with it. You need to pace yourself and you need to work according to your dreams, but your dreams become reality and alive when you put them into practice. So it's all very well to say, well, this is what I'd love to do, but if you don't actually put a plan of action together, an effective, constructive one, then you won't be able to achieve those dreams.
And then, as we know, life happens and we have that plan, and then we wake up in the morning and life throws itself at us.
Absolutely.
And all those plans fly by the window. Do you have any mantras that you live by that you can use in terms of keeping on track? Because we have a plan, and that plan is not always where life takes us. The end goal is really ultimately where we want to be. So when people are going through difficulties, and you've been through, as you mentioned, you've been through some of your own personal difficulties, and I'm sure within your career, which we'll touch on, but what keeps you positive? What makes you keep getting up every day and fighting the fight when your course is not exactly as it was planned to be?
Okay, so I'd given you some context on the mantras that I subscribe to or that I live by, and I try to share it and instill that happiness and that positive approach with others. So I've learned that feeling confident and reaching out to opportunities in life are absolutely it's critical. You need to put your hand up. You need to grab every possible opportunity that comes your way. I've also learned that even if you don't know or you're quite unsure about whatever it is the role is, but if you're excited and you feel happy about it, you should embrace it, because you learn things along the way anyway. I think also one of my other mantras is really about prioritizing everything you do. So I think leadership is about priorities, and there are times where you need to prioritize specific things and then do what else you need to do. But as long as you stay focused and you stay the course.
Would you say that that is part of your success, is actually having a plan? Because so many people just wake up and go. And when you read about people like Ariana Huffington and Oprah, they seem to have a plan every morning. They wake up and have a plan. Would you say having a plan and projecting that forward has made a difference? Would you advise that?
Yes, I do. I've got a dream wall at home. So on this dream wall, it's just a board that I put up. And this came about 12 years ago when I was studying, and I read it in an assignment, and it all had to do with just remaining focused and putting things into perspective. So I designed this, and what I did is, because we like, as human beings, we like pictures as opposed to just writing, is I cut out specific things, my roadmap for my life, from a personal perspective, from a business point of view, and everything I really want to do, and how I'm going to get there. So this dream wall that I've had in place had all the pictures of everything I wanted to do. So at the time I wanted to finish my studies, I wanted to do my MBA, I had that picture, and I had the cost and the duration and all of that. So I reminded myself continuously. And then I had very big, thick red Cokie, and every time I accomplished it, the big tick across each area.
That is so awesome. That's like what a lot of people know of as a vision board.
Yes.
And it's actually just putting out into the universe what you want to manifest in the real world.
Yes.
That's very powerful and brings things. There are many stories about people having created vision boards and forgetting about them.
That's right.
And years later coming back and seeing that. So vision board, do you have words on your vision board?
Yes, I do. It's got words and pictures. I called it the dream wall. I had Carla in the center. And I chose a picture where I'm super happy, super excited, and where I've achieved something. So it was actually my gymnastics award. It was a young to say, well, I want to remain young and happy and excited as I was back then, because I think as youngsters, because of our innocence, we want to conquer the world. We want to do all sorts of things. And I think we lose that spirit as we grow older because of the negativity, the business world, whatever it may be that's dampened our soul. So I did that. I had that picture, and then I had everything that I wanted to do, my roadmap. And as things changed, or I didn't get despondent, I said, okay, well, if I haven't achieved it this way, then let me look for another alternative or another route.
Do you keep adding to it?
I do. I keep adding to it. I keep looking at it, and I do it once a week. I call it me time, where I sit in front of this board. And then I've also added photos, pictures, or notes of people who have made my journey a happy one, a successful one, who've assisted me along the way. So my mentors, their photographs go on there as well, so that I don't forget what I've been taught. Because I think constant learning is so important.
And being relevant.
That's
beautiful.
Absolutely. So that's really my big thing. And the other big mantra I live by is integrity and humility. I think no matter how big, as I always say, your title gets, or you get for that matter, in terms of position and career and aspirations, you can't forget that people associate and walk away from you when you've left a footprint in their heart because of your humility, because of your humble approach to things. So you can't forget that you're just Carla. And I always say that when I finish my doctorate, it's not about doctor, it's about Carla. And I think that's really what I really subscribe to, is the humility. And I often refer to amazing leaders like Brun Pretorius, who touched my life very significantly. And what I learned from him wholeheartedly was his humility, and even Nelson Mandela.
For people who don't know who Brun Pretorius is, do you want to tell us?
Yes, so he is the maverick that started and enhanced actually the McCarthy Group in South Africa. So in the motor car industry, how he impacted not just locally but internationally the lives of people, and how he managed to resolve issues in such a maverick and innovative approach when the challenges were so severe. He also worked with the Bidvest Group, and he faced a lot of challenges there. And I think that assisted me specifically around governance and business ethics, and that type of challenges that you face in organizations, because I think when you are above board and you're very ethical and you're principled that way, sometimes in business, it's not that governance is not pursued or followed through, but because the business imperatives are so important and it's all about chasing revenue, sometimes shortcuts are taken.
So you spoke about integrity, and that also comes back to shortcuts and the way you lead, not only as a CEO, but as a mom, as a wife, and as a friend. And in the world today, we're seeing people that do not live with integrity. It's kind of all surfacing and coming to the fore. What keeps you on track? How do you keep doing all this? Because sometimes I'm sure you have to be pretty hard, and sometimes things are not as easy as they may seem. You have to make difficult decisions.
Absolutely.
What keeps you on that track?
Well, I'll give you an example so that it's real, and I think it's close to my heart, is having worked as many years as I did with the national carrier of South Africa, and having held a very senior role in the organization, and also having faced the ongoing challenges at a leadership level. So the CEO, I was heading up the commercial arena. So I was the head of global sales and distribution, reporting directly into the chief executive. And the chief executive, as we know it, changes continuously. And of course, you've got to adapt and work with the new person, and possibly somebody who doesn't understand aviation, so bring them on board as quickly as possible. And I did all of that with a lot of integrity and humility. But I faced a major challenge in my last 2 years of SAA, where I was exposed to unethical business practices and lack of ethics and good governance, as per what we subscribe to as the King 3 report. And I had to make the very difficult decision to walk away from the organization and to resign from my role.
So take us into that place.
Yes.
Because that I would imagine is one of the biggest turning points in your career, and one of the biggest challenges and stumbling blocks that you faced.
Absolutely.
If I can ask you, take us a little bit back into time. So take us to your beginning, because we haven't heard your beginning.
Yes.
And then bring us back to that place and how you got to being where you are right now.
Absolutely. Well, I've got 21 years in aviation. So I've been very entrenched in the aviation sphere. However, I did leave for a very short while and joined a publishing house, because I've got an absolute passion for education. So my first passion being aviation, I embarked on a wonderful career as a flight attendant for South African Airways, representing South Africa as a brand ambassador. It was a very, very, very prestige role, specifically back then, where South Africa was flying only to specific international points, and it was really the very best of the best that was elected to be a flight attendant for the
that
national
always
carrier.
felt for me like the dream job. And my mother always said, you're too short.
No, I made it. Just made it. So because you go through such a rigorous process, for me that was a huge achievement. And to be able to stand out, there were 3,000 applicants and only a handful of people were selected. If I'm not mistaken in the number, but it was 100 and odd people that were selected. And I went through a very rigorous process, lots of examinations, physical examinations. You spoke to a psychologist, all sorts of things that were very involved. And once you managed to get that crew, as I said, it was a real honor to be able to get that crew badge and to officially say that I'm licensed and I can be a flight attendant on a number of aircrafts and represent my country, because you're a safety officer above all.
And I'm sure that also taught you a lot in terms of dealing with people. That's probably where your foundation came from.
Definitely. I think the cultural diversity, people from different walks of life, having to assist them on board, listening to their stories, because I think that is, what molded me also to be able to be tolerant, to be able to embrace people from different walks of life, is that I listened to a piece of story, somebody's life, somebody's journey along the way, sadness, happiness, and I think the warmth that I portrayed and received, I think really assisted me to building the interpersonal skills that I have, and I really am very, very humbled, and I say it with wholeheartedly, that I so enjoy people, because it is really an asset of mine, is how I'm able to build those long, sustainable relationships with people and different stakeholders at different levels. And I think that was definitely the foundation. From there, I was told that I could never be in the cockpit. And I was a woman, and I couldn't be in a leadership role. That's where I would remain. And so that's when I thought, I'm going to show you that I can do this. And I came on the ground, because it was very difficult. You couldn't do cadet piloting back then. Came on the ground, and I worked in different areas at South African Airways, in the PR, government relationships, at the airport. And I was then headhunted by KLM, the Royal Dutch Airlines, to join their office at the airport, which I did.
Which was a huge change, different environment, different job
Absolutely. I was exposed to the international airlines, the Dutch as well. So I had to learn the culture, the structures, very organized, and a wonderful airline as well, very visionary, very established. So I think I learned all the nuts and bolts of aviation along the way there. Whilst I was at the airport, I was approached by a phenomenal woman, Claire Span from Air France, who told me I was assisting her on an ongoing basis. She was traveling on duty travel, and she told me that I'm a commercial person and that I should be in the sales arena. I have the ability to interact with people, engage them at a different level, and build those sustainable relationships, and I should look at going into sales. And I did just that. I was then joined Air France. In the sales environment, I looked after government and top key accounts. I was later promoted a very short period of time into the sales management role. And then South African Airways came to headhunt me to join the commercial department because they said that we were taking all their business away. And that's how I ended up back at SA.
So quite interesting in that you were able to dip your toes into different facets and learn different roles.
Absolutely.
Because a true leader really understands what everyone below them does. And it sounds from your history that you really, from literally being on a person's journey with them as they got onto the plane to getting into the sales and finally to where you are. So I think that must have given you a lot of clarity.
Oh, yes. And I think it assisted me to really understand every department and how it all comes together. It really the nuts and bolts, because I think it is a very technical business, a very difficult business, because profit margins are extremely thin in the aviation space. So it's great leadership. It really rises and falls on the shoulders of great leadership to be able to take an airline and make it profitable, because most airlines worldwide are not profitable. They are loss-making because of all the uncontrollable factors that airlines face. So I grew an absolute interest and passion, and then I furthered my studies while I was working. And as a key account manager at South African Airways, I was entrusted with the top 100 JSE listed companies, and I looked after the top South African blue chip conglomerates. And I think,
which is a big responsibility.
Wow, huge responsibility.
Scary.
Very scary. And I remember saying to my dad, who had a leadership role and really has been my mentor along the way, and I remember saying, "Sure, Dad, how do I go and see Brian Joffe, or how do I go and see Norman Adamy, the CEO of South African Breweries and the CEO of Bidvest? How do I see them? They are amazing, powerful people." And I'll never forget my dad saying to me, "Carla, they are not experts in your industry. They are experts in their industry. You are an expert."
That is such powerful wisdom and knowledge. And being a woman, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on it, but so many powerful women feel the imposter syndrome.
Absolutely.
Am I really capable? Am I able?
Absolutely.
Am I as good as them? Can I really do it?
Yes.
Did you go through that as an emotion? Did you feel that? Your father's advice is incredibly powerful. And also, I guess, realizing that we're all just people.
Absolutely. And he said to me, they're just all people. They just like you and me. And he says, you are the expert in your subject matter. You go there confidently, make sure you prepare, you've done your homework, you've researched the organization, and you go there prepared. And I did just that. And I found myself in my initial meetings sitting outside the CEO's office waiting for him to see me, nervous and anxious. But once I sat down with him and we had a cup of tea and we started engaging, it just led from one conversation to the next, and I established the most amazing friendships and business relationships. And I learned from these great leaders. And what was amazing is they would phone me and ask me for my advice on whatever it is that they were doing as far as their travel budgets were concerned or their travel plans. or which airline, or assistance with very intimate stuff.
And how did that feel?
And it felt amazing to say that as anxious and as uncomfortable I was initially, I went in there boldly and confidently, knowing that I knew what I was talking about, and showed them that I'm there to add value. And I think that is what I like to instill in the youngsters, to say you need to look at it from that perspective. You need to be bold, you need to be confident, first and foremost, internally. And you need to know that you're going there to add value. You need to add value. And I think that was my big thing. And of course, from there, my customers became my mouthpiece. And in fact, my customers and business relationships is really what enhanced my promotions along the way. And I still say today, my customers are my mouthpiece. I don't need to say to my boss, I'm doing a good job. As the director here for the African Latin America region, I know that I'm entrusted with the P&L, and I know that I can do the job and that I'm worthy of the job. And I need to remind myself when the challenges arise. So I think
that is actually the best recommendation you can get, is when your peers and your colleagues are the ones that are applauding you.
Absolutely.
As opposed to us applauding ourselves, because then you know you really have done a really good job.
Absolutely.
You spoke before about having some stumbling blocks, and we get to crossroads in our lives. You've had some challenges.
That's right.
Would you like to share some of them with us? Because everybody goes through life. It's not a full box of chocolates.
Absolutely.
And if you, through your journey and your struggle, can inspire others who are going through a difficult time, life is not always easy.
Absolutely.
Maybe share one or two of your struggles and what inner strength you used to overcome that.
Well, the one struggle that we touched on earlier was the exposure that I had to the unethical business practices within the organization. There was a change of leadership, and of course, you are requested to act on specific decisions. So you need, you're told you will sign this contract or you will do this. And bearing in mind delegation of authority and also submission to authority, you need to be very careful as to how you address it. I think for me, the struggle was, the inner struggle was the fact that it was compromising my value system in terms of integrity and business ethics. And I also knew that ultimately there were going to be repercussions on signing such contracts and doing certain actions. So I had to push back. And of course, when you do push back, then you become a target. And I think being one of the very last executives that was targeted during that time under that leadership, I knew that the time had arrived and I was being targeted unfairly. But you realize that there are certain fights that you can fight, and there are other fights that you rather just walk away. I wasn't a political giant. I was just a businesswoman with a lot of passion, wanting to make a difference, having a proven track record in the commercial and aviation sphere. And that's all I was doing, was just doing my job really, really well and making a difference. And so I realized that I would not win this political fight. I also realized that this was beyond me, because it's a state entity, it lies with government, and that I wasn't going to get anywhere in that regard. As much as my heart was set on being the next CEO of the national carrier, because that's where I was aiming for, and I was on my way there, I realized it was time for me to walk away. And that's a huge struggle when you've made a place your home, and I had made SAA my home. And I had worked very, very hard to get to where I was in a very much predominantly male-dominated environment. I've had to earn the respect of my colleagues and to be able to sit at Exco and assist in the vision and the long-term strategy of the national carrier, I think is a huge responsibility. For me, that was an honor and a privilege, and I took that very seriously. So
I think also compromising on your value system could have compromised on your whole career at some point. So sticking by what you believed in was hard, and trying for you, and could have, it didn't land up that way, but it could have landed up feeling like you were going backwards from a career perspective,
Absolutely.
but standing in who you are and what you believe in
Absolutely.
always comes
Absolutely.
out being the winner in the end.
Yes, it was very challenging. And I think for me, deciding to make that, to walk away was a huge struggle internally. But I think I needed to because of the stress that I had been exposed to. And it became very, very stressful. I mean, I'm just giving you an abridged summary.
Yes.
If I had to get into the details, you would really, really be shocked. But I think it's so important to be able to just walk away and start again. And I actually walked away and I thought I'm going to take a break from aviation, and I joined the publishing industry because I've got a passion for education. And I made a huge difference. I worked in the public sector, so the public school sector. I worked with government, and I assisted tremendously from a publishing point of view, making sure that schools in this country got books. I wrote a book whilst I was there, and from a marketing perspective to assist the FET colleges in the country, and I think that was a really good break that I had. But of course, the adrenaline rush drove me straight back into aviation, because every day is a new day in aviation. So if you're a leader in this type of dynamic, ever-changing industry, you need this adrenaline to keep you going.
So how do you cope with stress? You said you had, when you were at SA, every single day was stressful. And even having that break and working with government and education still has its stresses.
Of course, yes.
And you are a mom, and that has its stresses.
Of course, yes.
What did you do in those very challenging times
Yes.
to try and help you cope with that stress?
Yes. Well, I believe in me time, and so what I did along the way, and I continue to do it, I have a few mentors, both gentlemen and ladies, and I would pick up the phone and say, I need to talk. And I think the way that I've coped with the stresses that I continue to have, and I sometimes wonder why I'm in such a stressful environment and why I want to be here, is really talking to people and talking about the issue and brainstorming and just maybe getting a different perspective. So what I always have done, and what I tend to do, is at least once a month I meet with somebody that I admire and I trust, and is a mentor, and I share whatever the challenge or the journey or the perspective on issues are, and just get an objective view. So
I think that's very important today, especially in the world where coaching's become such a big thing, is for people to identify the difference between a coach and a mentor, and actually have someone they can bounce ideas off.
Absolutely.
Many people feel very alone, especially in leadership roles. So that's fabulous advice.
Yes.
Is get yourself a mentor.
Absolutely. So, and have more than one. I found that you don't want to burden one specific mentor. And what I found as well with my mentors is that I think I've also become a sounding board for them. So it's actually reciprocal. So the relationship is beneficial. It's mutually beneficial. And then what I also found is having quality time with people who invigorate you and revive you. And my daughter does that. So I have mom and daughter time where we do the girl stuff, like the shopping, or as I call it, retail therapy, or alternatively the spa. And I think that does wonders, to just switch off and just talk to somebody who loves you, but get their view and their perspective. And I always say that teenagers and young children are, because they're so innocent and they see the world with different eyes, I always say they have a different pair of glasses. It's nice to just chat to them and get a different view. So she's also been my strength.
She fills up your soul. I can see just from your passion in speaking about it.
Yes,
and it's an imperative, because as a woman in business, we have many roles. We are the woman in business. We are the mom. We are the homemaker. We are the wife. And each role is as equally demanding on us.
Absolutely.
Do you do anything just for Carla without speaking to anybody, sharing? Do you go into quiet space? Do you meditate? Do you do yoga? Do you just be, or are you more of a busy person?
Well, I am a busy person. I like to keep busy because I enjoy it. So I do a lot of, over and above the business element, I'm very involved with women and children, as I'm the brand ambassador for I'm Worthy. So that keeps me, I think that is for me also a de-stress. But I do have me time where I sit. I am spiritual, so I believe in prayer time. And so I do pray, and I do sit and read my Bible or read a book. And I think that's me time, where I really switch off. And I like to sit in an environment where it's serene and where there's nature and greenery, and I can just hear the birds. And so that's really what I do. And I do that at least once a month. It's blocked off. It's in my diary, and I've done that. And in fact, I've only really been very good at doing that for the last 18 months, where I've made a decision to have this in my diary as a to-do item.
Because we generally tend to scratch ourselves out. Whatever project or anything that's urgent comes, we scratch ourselves out, and everyone comes ahead of us. And someone gave me a brilliant analogy. They said, if you're a tree with lots of branches and everyone's pulling at the branches, eventually the tree is going to fall over. And you have to water those roots and let those roots dig deep, go deep into the soil. So when everyone's pulling, you can still stand firm.
That's an amazing analogy. I'll remember that, because you're so right. The tree is so entrenched. So if you hold onto your roots, you can manage to survive. And I think that's really what's happened many times.
Well, my view is just flying on Air Mauritius to Mauritius and looking at that beautiful sea has got to restore the soul. It has to put a smile on anyone's face. So you know, that chore of, oh honey, I'm off again. Sorry about that. It has got some value.
That is so true.
You're not going to
survive.
You're not going to an urban jungle. You're going to a tropical paradise.
Absolutely.
Even while you're working, that has to fill the soul.
Well, the minute you land in Mauritius, and I often say, people say, well, how do you survive the stress? And I say, working for Air Mauritius, it's a wonderful, wonderful destination. Yes, we fly all over the world, but going to Mauritius, so when you land, immediately you feel that you are in paradise. It's so beautiful from the minute you land. And just even landing, whilst we're descending, you can already see the sea, and you can see the mountains, you can see the greenery, and you can smell the fresh air. And I think already that does wonders for the healing.
And the people are wonderful there too.
Amazing.
Mauritius is most definitely my favorite place on earth. And I always say, one day when I die and go to heaven, that's what it's going to look like.
Well, I must tell you, their warmth and hospitality has also taught me a lot.
Yes.
And I think that's also, and again, every step of the way of my journey, I've been molded by something or someone. And I think Mauritius, the people, have definitely taught me humility, hospitality and warmth. They are so happy, and they don't live in the most amazing conditions. They live in small homes. There's also poverty, yet they are happy.
And what the traveller sees is not what really goes on in real life there. We see these opulent, magnificent hotels. And that's not really how people live. Yet the people who live there are just so peaceful, friendly, happy.
And they're happy people.
Yes, they really are happy. So what is your recipe for happiness on your journey? What would you recommend for others? What is your recipe? What makes Carla such an ebullient, bubbly, beautiful, happy person that projects such a wonderful energy? What is your recipe for happiness? Give us a few things.
I'd like to share. I just thought about when one of the questions you mentioned to me was, and it ties in with this one so nicely, so I'd like to bring it together, where you said, if you could be anyone else, who would you be? And I think that ties in very much around what is your recipe for happiness. I think you need to be who you are. First and foremost, you don't want, yes, absolutely aspire and learn and grow, and adopt, what other magnificent and wonderful people have done. And we learn from great leaders, but I think you need to be you. So the first thing, I think recipe for happiness is you need to be happy with who you are. That
so
is so
powerful
important
for women today, because so many women want to be somebody else. They want to be the man. They want to be thinner. They want to be prettier. They want to have short hair or long hair or curly hair, and just being who you are is very powerful wisdom.
Absolutely. And I thought, sure, if it was somebody else I wanted to be, I would rather not say I want to be somebody else. I still want to be Carla, but I would love to have the sphere of influence of a Princess Diana, who was renowned for being a humanitarian. Plus, she had the ability to influence the financial components and a lot of other factors to be able to add value to people. And she played a huge role in that sphere with children in particular. Mother Teresa, her humility and love for people, her absolute love for people. I think you need to love people, you need to love what you do to be able to be happy, and I think to be able to be successful and to have that recipe for success, you need to have a combination of all of that.
Yes.
And then I think of Bill Gates. As far as innovation is concerned, and being a maverick, and an expert in his field, I want to have all those traits, that combination, and also in his ability to influence, like he did, the social responsibility element. I actually took note of how much money he spends on corporate social responsibility, and I need to share this because it was incredible. And he's given away 28 billion via charitable foundation for global health. So it's ultimately to impact all of us here as far as global health is concerned. But he says that money has no utility to me at a certain point. Its utility is entirely in building an organization and getting the resources out to the poorest of the world. So as much as he is a multimillionaire, a wonderful, successful maverick that we all look up at and we want to subscribe to everything he's done and understand the recipe there, he's also led with a heart, and so not just with his mind. And that's the type of leader I want to be. To be able to work in a congruent manner, to be able to be assertive and make those business decisions, but have a heart in the process. And I think that makes me happy.
I think you're already living it, and I think before we close, I'd like you just to share some of the heart that you give back, because you're involved in many charities and have done incredible things to give back to communities. And I think it's very valuable for others to know that giving back is as much as the journey, as much as part of the journey of success. And being number one is celebrating the victories, those moments, your picture on the wall of you being happy. So many successful people never stop to celebrate those moments.
Yes.
Is celebrating that, is being a person of integrity and value, but also giving back as much as you've taken.
Absolutely.
And so if you can just close with some of the beautiful, inspiring things. I know you've just been involved in buying a huge piece of land for women. If you can share some of that and end off with your vision for the future and your hope for Carla. Where next for Carla?
Oh, yes, absolutely. I think it's so important as leaders. We have a huge responsibility to give back. And I think there's nothing more rewarding than to be able to look back and say, I left a legacy. So I embarked on that many years ago. As far as my aviation passion was concerned, I established a mentorship program for young men and women who aspire to be in a leadership role but need the expertise also in the commercial arena. So that mentorship program runs. I mentor a specific number of aviators or wanting to be aviators in the tourism, hospitality and aviation sector, and I share the skills and the knowledge and all of assignments I've done, etc. So that
and people would be able to get that information and look you up and apply to become part of this.
Yes, I share my thesis with them. I share assignments I did along the way, and so that it builds them as well. And I assist them with assignments and specific things that they tasked to do. I've done that at absolutely no cost. I do it because I want to. So that's the one.
Give a busy person a lot to do and they'll do it, right?
Absolutely. So I actually build it into my program, and I only take specific people at a time, but I do that. So that's from a leadership perspective. From a CSI point of view, and I like to say that it should be part and parcel of everything we do is to be able to give back. There are two big organizations that I'm involved with. The one is the Reach for a Dream Foundation in South Africa, and I think that alone was started by a maverick, Mervyn Cerebro, tomorrow. And I work very closely with Julia, the CEO, and to make sure that I fulfill the dreams of families and children in particular that are either very close to their final days, or alternatively to just enhance and give them hope and give them belief that there is a tomorrow. So I think that is, I'm very humbled to be involved, and I make a lot of journeys possible. We've just done a recent one where a young girl wants to go and swim with the dolphins in Mauritius, so I've sent her and mom to Mauritius. Another boy's dream was to go to Mauritius, to paradise, and I'm sending him with his mom and dad. So those are the type of dreams that
you're
we
a dream
fulfill.
maker, Carla.
Absolutely. And
a
I think
dream
that's
maker, and that's the
aviation.
most fulfilling part of a journey like this, is to
yes.
be able to give back.
Yes.
Research has found that when we give, we actually get 10 times more in return.
Absolutely.
How powerful.
So powerful. And to see the happiness, the absolute happiness on the faces of the parents and the children, and to be able to do little things for them along the journey, because I think traveling is a journey, and you're fulfilling people's hopes and dreams, irrespective whether it's career or personal. And I think you're making people's lives and their world a better place. So that's Reach for a Dream. The other one is I'm Worthy. It was started by Dr. Beverly Volmerans many years ago, a heart that she has for women in particular, where women don't think they're worthy. So she started a wonderful product range to generate funding so that the proceedings could then go to uplift women and abused women in particular. She also started the orphanage campaign. So we have a number of orphanages on the East Rand of Johannesburg, which is orphans that we look after, we clothe them, we feed them through the welfare division. And then we decided to save money and purchase land and build a children's village and bring all these orphanages and orphans that are located all over the place into one central place and create a home and a family environment for these children. And more importantly is to educate them so that they become the future doctors, engineers, and political leaders that we need in our country, children with integrity.
An incredible initiative. And if people wanted to contribute, they would be able to contribute towards what you're doing and all these projects.
Absolutely. These organizations are all NPOs, good governance in place. I'm the brand ambassador. I simply talk about the cause via different channels. I raise funding. All the proceedings go into the children's village to build it, and hopefully we'll have a home where all these abused women that we also upskilling and assisting and building, as well as these children, will have a future. And we're sitting with 1,400 orphans currently, and the idea is to be able to educate them to university level. There's a number of sponsors already on board, and we want them to be the future leaders of this country, built on good foundations as far as love and integrity is concerned.
Such inspiration and hope for the future of the people of our country, to have women like you in leadership roles helping us all. And what I can sum up from our conversation is you are definitely someone who's put their best foot forward and used it in the ability of helping others and growing others and inspiring others. So well done to you, Carla. Thank you for the most beautiful interview. To end, just some words of wisdom. What do you hold in your heart? What is your final message to the world? What do you want to leave us with?
I just want to say that you must never, ever give up on your dreams, and you need to have a vision. You need to be visionary, but you need to also remember that we're all humans, and we're human at the end of the day, and people and situations will let you down, but you need to continually find happiness within yourself, and you need to move forward, and you need to leave a legacy. And I always say, I love to say that I love to leave footprints in the hearts of people, and my next step is I want to be CEO of a big organization. And it's not really about the title, although the title will allow me in a position of influence to make a difference, but it is so that I'm able to influence communities and people around me from a financial perspective, but also from a leadership role. I really want to be known to have touched the lives of people and made a difference in the business sphere as well. So don't stop being, innovation is so critical, so don't stop being innovative, don't stop start being passionate about what you believe in. And even when things go wrong, just stay the course and continue and keep going and persevere, because you will achieve your aspirations if you just stay true to yourself and hold hands with other people.
Thank you. That was so powerful. I think it will help inspire millions of people who listen to your story, who read the book, who are on the verge of giving up, who don't believe in themselves, who feel hopeless. You are a true expert, Maverick, and thank you for being such a powerful contributor to this book. Thank you.
Thank you.
And there you have it. What an excellent interview. Thank you to our guest interviewer, Shireen Richter. She's interviewing people for her book, Expert Mavericks, which is going to be released later this year. We're looking forward to more interviews from Shireen, but until then, like and share, and we'll see you next time on the show.
Thanks for listening to Business Innovators Radio. To hear all episodes featuring leading industry influencers and trendsetters, visit us online at businessinnovatorsradio.com today.